Very good morning, class. Today we are going to continue with SID 3017 Quality Assurance in Chemistry. So basically we have covered the introduction and a little bit of principles of valid analytical measurements. Importance of laboratory quality. Laboratory quality can be defined as accuracy, reliability, and timelines of the reported test results. The laboratory must be as accurate as possible. All aspects of laboratory operation must be reliable and reporting must be timely in order to be useful in a clinical or public health setting. So when we are talking about the level of accuracy required, when making measurements, there is always some level of inaccuracy. The challenge is to reduce the level of inaccuracy as much as possible given the limitation of our testing system. So an accuracy level of 99% must be first appeared and is acceptable, and the 1% error can become a quite large in a system where many events can occur. So the negative consequences of the lab error, okay, it's due to the unnecessary treatment, failure to provide the proper treatment, delay in correct diagnosis, additional or unnecessary diagnostic testing. Well, the importance of laboratory qualities. So false test results have lasting consequences, okay, for victims. So we might um, penalize someone with the falsifying results if, let's say, whatever step that we are doing in our laboratory as a chemist, okay, if let's say we don't follow a correct SOPs, so we might produce a falsifying results or the results are not accurate. So therefore, an ideal laboratory analysis involves the above categories. Basically, pre-examination, examination, and post-examination. So pre-examination is, for example, as for the clinical samples, patient clinical samples. Okay, usually the health staff will collect the samples, and the samples will be treated with confidential and all those things. Then it will go for the examination. Then about the reporting. This is the basic steps when dealing with the analysis. So now, chemical accidents in the history. So when we talk about the chemical accidents, okay, there are so many chemical accidents happens, okay, and a very famous one is Minamata River, okay, which is Minamata disease. We will call as the mercury compounds in Minamata Bay or Japan, okay, and so this kind of disease it's happened because of the chemical accidents, okay, and recently, we do face this problem, which is chemical pollution. So chemical waste was dumped into the Sungai Kim Kim in Johor 2000 in March 2019, and we do face a lot of problem, okay, from this. And a lot of case studies and all the research are still going on about Sungai Kim Kim. Now, let's move on to the principles of valid analytical measurement. The purpose I introduce all those things before we continue with our lesson, because I just want everyone here to get a clear picture, okay, the importance of principles of valid analytical measurements, because you have to know the 6 principles of valid analytical measurements in order to overcome all those errors, all those accidents, and we will have some ethics as a chemist, when we are doing the analysis, we will have all these principles within ourselves. So when we talk about the principles of valid analytical measurements, you should know the results of analytical measurements need to be fit for their purpose, and the results obtained in different location or at the different time should be consistent no matter what. Okay, the laboratory makes the measurements to fulfill the specific requirement, customer's requirement. So if the results are not fit for the purpose, then the analysis is waste of time and money. So apart from that, if a laboratory knows or suspects that the results are unreliable, so basically, okay, it will you need to put extra money, extra cost when we are repeating the measurements. So, and another thing, when we release unreliable results to the customer, it carries a risk, and therefore potentially significantly, it will cost to the laboratories, because it all involve legal issues. Okay, so let's move on to the six principles. Okay, basically the six principles of valid analytical measurements provides a framework to enable the organization to deliver reliable results first time, every time, and achieve the bottom line improvement through increased operational efficiency and reduce in risk. So laboratories that adopt the valid measurements will provide the best service to the customers, and they will increase the confidence to the customers with the results, okay, with the analytical measurements, okay, and the results will shows that the analytical measurements are valid and fit for the purpose. So the six principles are the analytical measurements should be made to satisfy an agreed requirement. The analytical measurement should be made using methods and equipment which have been tested to ensure they are fit for their purpose. Analytical measurements in one location should be consistent with those elsewhere, and staff making analytical measurement should be both qualified and competent to undertake the task. And apart from that, organization making analytical measurement should have well-defined quality control and quality assurance procedures. And finally, there should be a regular independent assessment of technical performance of the laboratories. So class, let me explain each of the principles clearly. Okay, so now, so class, the keyword for the first principle is agreed analytical requirements. Second keyword is methods or equipment should fit for the purpose. So for example, the instruments that set up for the particular analysis should be used for the particular analysis. You can't be like keep mixing, all those analyses and all those instruments, because some analyses are very sensitive for certain types of, some instruments are very analysis for certain types of analysis. So some instruments are very sensitive towards certain type of analysis, so that's why we have to be very careful, okay, when we are performing the analysis test. And the staff performing the analysis should be competent, and we have to do regular checks on technical performance, consistency of the measurements. So the results that we are getting today, it should be same. Okay, maybe after 1 week when we do the experiment, it should be the same. So that is the meaning of consistency of measurements. And finally, of course, quality assurance and quality control comes along with our process. So it will come by the process of auditing and all those things. Okay, so we will learn all this about in detail about auditing and all those things in ISO chapter. So class, so the six principles of valid analytical measurements, basically it enables the organization to deliver the reliable results first time, every time, and to achieve the bottom line improvement throughout the increase operational efficiency and reducing risk. Class, okay, so class, again here I need to emphasize certain things. Okay, I don't expect, okay, everyone to memorize all those six principles word by word, but you have to know the keyword. Okay, that is the important point here. Okay, well, the first principle is the analytical measurement should be made to satisfy an agreed requirement. So class, the reason for performing any analysis will be to solve a defined problem. If the analyst, okay, needs to understand, basically the chemist or the analyst need to understand what are the requirement and what are the need, okay, need by the customer. So because we ourselves, we as a chemist, we should know what are the needs of the customer, so and we can act accordingly. Okay, so and of course the customer should provide sufficient information for us to perform the analysis, and the proposed analytical methodology need to be delivered in the most effective manner, okay, and consistent, should be fit for the purposes. Okay, Basically, the organization have to identify a responsible analyst who has the knowledge and understanding to interpret the customer's problem and to give the best solution to the customer, and should define how the samples are to be obtained and how it going to be delivered to our laboratories. So basically, some samples are very sensitive and we have to do some sample pre-treatment on site, or we have to bring the sample to our laboratories and we have to do sample pretreatment within 24 hours. It depends on what type of analysis we are doing. So the information that we are getting from our customers are very important. And apart from that, we should discuss with the customer the use to which the analytical results will be put. So this will determine the level of confidence required in the results. And we have to discuss with the customer the issue of qualitative compositions and help the customers to identify the critical and non-critical aspects of the problem. Okay, for example, what type of the analysis, what type of the results, and what are the main issues that they are facing with that sample, and what is the main objective that they need to do this analysis, so that we can provide that type of data for them, to come with one decision. And after discuss and agree with the requirements with the customer, then it should be possible to draw up an analytical specification which contain the information and will enable an appropriate analytical strategy to be chosen. So the analytical specification should cover the following points. Basically, class, the history of the sample and nature of the matrix is very, very important, and work needed to identify the sample constituents and any additional conformation requirement is needed. For example, it depends on the customer. Okay, if let's say the customer can define that the sample that collect the sample that they receive, or the sample that they collect from particular site is surrounded by the industrial area or something like that. Okay, the time and cost constraint, QA QC requirement, and third party acceptance, and the of course the regulatory constraints. So here I have given one example, okay, reducing the cost of analysis through dialogue with the customer. So class, basically we as a chemist, we can able to reduce the cost of analysis by referring to the proper guidelines, or we create our own SOPs. So but this example is showing that by conversation with the customer, we can able to reduce the cost of the analysis. As for the second principle, the analytical measurements should be made using a method and equipment which has been tested to ensure that they are fit for the purpose. So principle 2 is explains about the method and equipment. So the method that we are using should be an established method. So most of the service laboratory, they are following guidelines by ISO. So when you're following ISO guidelines, you should have a specific method which is already established, an established method, okay, and certified or accredited by the ISO International Standard Organization. So we can able to get the valid data by using those methods. So we cannot use simply, we cannot just pick one method from the journals, and and that method is just for the research purpose. It haven't come into the real testing yet. So we can't do that, but you can do a slight adjustment on your method, but you still have to go with the IS organization and to get the approval. So when it comes to service laboratory, there are so many rules and regulations, and you have to act according to protocols. So you cannot expect reliable results from validated method unless the measurements are being undertaken within a range of scope. So something like that is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, and apart from that, the performance characteristics are determined during the method development, which is validation. validation, so which is very important. So method validation is basically a verification of the method that we are using. So when we are talking about the method, so basically we have to review the original source of the method that currently in use in your laboratories. Okay, if let's say you are thinking the method is okay, it's very old method, probably it's not suitable anymore, or the method is very high cost, so probably we are planning to reduce the cost, so we can modify the method. Okay, but as long as the method should be accredited method or established method, okay, but we can modify a little bit. Okay, but of course it should be fit for the purpose. Okay, and when we are talking about method, okay, the equipments as well, okay, the equipments as well should be the equipment that meant for that purpose. Okay, the equipment should operates according to the specification, okay, to the requirement of the method, and the instrument used in a method cannot be rely upon, unless they have been properly maintained and calibrated. So the instrument should be maintained properly and calibrated, okay, daily. And when we talk about the careful selection of the method, is the actually critically to obtain a reliable data. So that's why you have to follow careful, you have to carefully, choose pick a right method, okay, when we do a test. Okay, but you no need to worry. Okay, once you are appointed as the chemist, okay, R&D chemist, QA chemist, okay, whatever chemist, of course you will have some guidelines, some protocols, SOPs in your laboratory. So basically you will follow the SOPs, but in order for you to upgrade, okay, the method, or you want to cut some method, okay, in order to reduce the cost or whatever, and then you have to go for accreditation again. All those are involved some documentation process. Okay, then when we talk about method, okay, choosing the right method, so method validation is very important. It's a criteria for the method as applied in your laboratories to provide the data which are fit for the intended purpose, and the method will be verified by using the method validation. So you will learn method validation with Dr. Lokahin soon. Okay, and a single sample. So enriching the agreement over the appropriate level of effort for a single sample, it is important that both of the the chemist and the customer should understand what is required to achieve and what are the main objective. The conversation, they should understand that the conversation between the chemist and the customer, okay, it is very important for you to understand the conversation, conversation, and you have to clear with the objective so that we can provide the reliable data that requested by the customer. Okay, now we move on to the principle 3. So staff making analytical measurements should be both qualified and competent. Of course, class, okay, to perform an analytical test, okay, the person should have at least a minimum of Bachelor of Chemistry or Diploma in Chemistry, something like that. Okay, we can't just, pick SPM holder to perform all this, even though all the guidelines, procedure is everything written in the book, and they have to just follow the procedure. But when we follow the procedure also, sometimes we have to think, am I right? So that is the purpose that the chemists that perform the test should have right knowledge and understanding, so that we can minimize the risk involved in the analysis. Okay, so okay, in these slides, okay, to ensure the appropriate training programs are devised and implemented for the analyst. Okay, of course, you will be given a proper training and continuous training in a way, okay, to make sure to make you to be more competent. Okay, and use training course which include an assessment of knowledge and skills gained on the course. Okay, and samples, okay, especially, okay, when dealing with samples, unexpected results can happen. So the chemist or the analyst, okay, need to be understand, okay, the ideal of the work, okay, what is happening, therefore the staff should have the broader understanding of the analysis that they are doing. And of course, motivation, okay, we need the motivation in order to produce a good quality of the output. So of course, okay, in your management, okay, when in future when you guys go to work, those who are going to attach in the laboratory, so of course your higher management will play all this role. Okay, so now move on to the principle number 4. So when we talk about principle number 4 is basically there should be an independent assessment of technical performance. So class, independent assessment of technical performance is something like an external benchmark, okay, gives you feedback on your laboratory's technical performance compared to other competent laboratories. It's something like PT test, okay, intra laboratory test. So something like the same test, let's say three laboratories are performing the same analysis, but so that there will be some external benchmark, some external organization will give feedback on your laboratories based on your technical performance compared with the other competent laboratories. Is something like that. Okay, as a manager, you'll be able to use the data from the external assessment, okay, for both internal quality purpose and as a part of your strategy to winning the business. Okay, is something like the independent assessment of the technical performance. Okay, okay, this is a good example of the principle number 4 is proficiency testing. So basically class, proficiency testing is one on well established organization, they will perform this proficiency testing, for example for the analysis of amines from in water samples. So if let's say there are few laboratories, okay, performing this test, so all these laboratories will perform the test, the same sample they will just test, okay, according to how they will do daily, and they will send the results to the organization, the one that conducting the PT exam. So they will review all the results from the 5 laboratories, and they will comment. So of course class, even though we are doing in different place, okay, the analysis should be the results, because the sample is same, so and the analysis also same, so the results should be almost there. Okay, if let's say four labs are getting almost the same results, and another one laboratories are getting one laboratory, they're getting some outlier, the results are differ so much, so that means something is wrong. So basically this PT scheme is not to penalize the lab is just when you participate in the PT test, PT scheme, we will call that as a PT scheme. So it's just for you to get some extra education, something like we will say it's for educational purpose, like the report that we are getting from the organization, we will use for our improvement. It's not to penalize us, okay, it's for the improvement, how to improve. So once we get the report from the external body, so we can use the report and to make some improvement in our organization. So we will learn about proficiency testing in one chapter, okay, intra laboratory. As for the principle number 5, measurements made in one location should be consistent with those elsewhere. So the meaning of this basically class, disagreements between the companies or other organization over analytical measurements, basically it wastes time and costs money. So if the supplier and purchaser reach different conclusion about a product or service, okay, in which they are trading, both will have bear the cost and resolving their differences. So therefore, the regulation cannot be fairly enforced if the relevant analytical data shows inconsistency. Thus, undetected long-term inconsistency may be misinterpreted as a real and significant effects. So therefore, class, the supplier and the purchaser should have the same conclusion. For example, if let's say the supplier is like recommending this method, by using this instrument you will get the results, okay, something like this, and you have to get the same results as mentioned by the supplier. So that's why the agreement should be the same, okay. As for the principle number 5, okay, the long-term consistency, okay, to make sure there is no false trends are deduced from the analytical results, okay, in order to make sure the consistency throughout, for a long term. So what we can do is check or calibrate the entire method using relevant, stable and well established reference material, okay. So when we talk about reference material, actually we are referring to a certified reference material, okay. So I will cover that in the upcoming chapters. So class, and apart from that, okay, this long-term consistency we can monitor with the association of control charts as well. Okay, so if let's say there is any bias or any outliers, okay, we can monitor through control charts, and whatever action that we can take, immediate action we can take in order to overcome that mistake. And we have to make sure all the instrument used are calibrated with traceable reference standard, of course, so that we know the sensitivity of the instrument is there. Okay, if let's say the instrument is not sensitive enough, that means that instrument is no more fit for the analytical purposes. Okay, so and we have to understand the factors which contribute to uncertainty in the method and estimate the overall uncertainty in your results. Okay, and apart from that, try to identify the laboratory carry out the same work and investigate the possibilities of collaboration, so that class, okay, you can know, okay, the results are, is it very so much or is it the same. Okay, or apart from that, you can also, participate in the PT, test PT scheme. Okay, and finally, certified reference material or reference material or highly specialized material. Okay, when we, use this, okay, certified reference material, we can make sure, okay, we can measure the method that we are using is right, or it's wrong, because usually the certified reference material comes with the correct value is already mentioned on the, the certified reference material. So when we use the method to test those samples, so we should get the same value as the, stated in the certified reference material. Okay, but unfortunately, many measurements for which appropriate reference material do not exist. So in that case, okay, we have to come with our own reference material. Okay, in order to evaluate, okay, a method, or in order to apply for of more than, one well established method. Okay, by using the certified reference material, we can justify the method that we are using is right. Okay, so we can move on to the principle number 6. Okay, okay class, then principle number 6. So organization making an analytical measurements should have well-defined quality control and quality assurance procedures. So that means class, the procedure that needed, which will be given assurance that, valid analytical measurements 1 to 5 are being implemented, and recording the procedure need to be sufficient to allow results to be checked, or the whole analysis reconstructed to the extent required by the customer. So basically, it's a quality control procedure and necessary to show the measurement procedure in statistical control. So it's something like a control chart and all those things. So basically class, when we talk about the QA and QC in the principle number 6, basically it's actually, it's a check samples which has been done, usually measure regularly and recorded systematically, so that we can track, if let's say any false results or any problem, we can trace back all that. And of course, we have to select the proper quality management system that needs for our customers. So therefore we will use 9100 for the management, and ISO 17025 for testing and calibration laboratories. Okay, class, remember, ISO 9001 is meant for the management and 17025 is for the lab. So implemented the selected quality system. Okay, review the quality control procedure regularly. So class, when we review, when your management monitor all the progress properly, basically that is the QA and QC of the principle number 6. So so in order to achieve principle number 6, so principle number 1 to 5 should follow properly. So when we implement principle number 1 until 5 properly, so basically we will, our principle number 6, we will achieve our principle number 6 properly. So that is the okay class, so with that, we have done the principles of valid analytical measurements, and next lecture will be on ISO. So class, I will start to upload the lecture notes for the remaining chapters, and I will set few online via Google Meet with you guys, okay, to discuss further on assignments and the whatever updates. Okay, and if you have any question regarding the chapter, you can always email me, or you can always ask during the online meetup. So with that, class, thank you so much, stay safe, and please don't please follow the MCO order. Thank you so much, class.